Okay. Welcome everybody. My name's Pip Coleman. You are joining us for the Spiritual Events Directory Indie Author Interview Series, and it's where I talk to inspiring authors about their journey, their reason for writing, and why in the heck would you publish a book? Because really, it's crazy. And I've been through that experience, so I know what that's like. And today I have the lovely Louise Harding, all the way from, originally from New Zealand. Welcome, Louise.
Thanks for having me, Pip. It's awesome.
No worries. So we are going to have a chat today about your books and your business, because that's what we're here for. It's all about you today, and so I guess we might as well start with sharing that you have a business that's called Animal Talent, and you are here in Australia now rather than in New Zealand. So, do you want to share what your business is about?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. So, my passion is about helping humans understand dogs. And everybody knows the joy of owning a dog, and there is nothing better than coming home, that wet nose, the furry ears. It's really lovely to be greeted by your furry friend. And, I've been involved in training dogs and animals and all sorts of different, people from all sorts of walks of life and sharing their dog training journeys. And the one thing I discovered is that they're all different. Everybody has a different idea of what their perfect dog is, and everybody has different ideas about why their dog might do something. Yep. And so it was kind of on this, I guess I can use that word journey, yep, that I discovered that there was this one common theme. Mm-hmm. And it was that we all love animals, but sometimes some of what they do frustrates us.
Right.
And why is that? Why does a dog doing its own thing, doing its thing, doing the thing that, creatures do, dig and run and go to the toilet and make a lot of noise, why is that stuff so frustrating for us? Yep. So that's how, I guess, working with people, helping them understand and solve their, behavior problems. That's how I started this whole journey about, look, it's not that tricky. It's not that hard. We just need to understand things from a dog's perspective.
Right.
And so that's how this little number came about. And it is written in Australasian speak. So I've taken out all of the behavioural chat that my peers and I use, and it's written in everyday common sense language that the everyday pet owner can understand.
Yeah.
But I just sort of explain in here about the techniques that I use in my business. So I run a really busy dog training school. Mm-hmm. I don't really like to use that word school because, people think that their dog is being educated. But what's happening is I'm helping people unravel the mystery of why their dog is doing something that's so annoying and frustrating.
Right.
But we need to, we do it with kindness. So the first step is to understand the why. Like, why is your dog doing that thing?
Yeah.
And getting people, people have all these pain points around dogs, especially when you live in a community with lots of people. A dog's barking, it's escaped the yard and chased a cat, all sorts of things. So a phone call will often be, my dog's done, and they list off 6 things that dogs do. Yep. That it doesn't assimilate well in the community. And I'm thinking from the dog's point of view that if I was a dog, that would be fun. Digging, running, barking.
Right.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
But it doesn't bode well for good, neighbourly relations. So sure. It's about, all right, well, if you don't want your dog to do that thing, what is it that you would like them to do? Right. And then we go about affecting change through, being kind, being patient, setting your dog up to be successful.
Yeah.
And, you know, dogs will always do the very thing that gets them the thing they want.
Right.
So, yeah, absolutely. So why don't we use that thing to help, you know, help them be happy, and then it makes the human happy. And then then the connection between the dog and the person grows, and that's the start. It's just awesome to see those connections and bonds growing, and you know, dogs giving to people.
It's so good. I love that, Louise. I love that whole concept of the holistic guide to training your dog. Like, I like that you've actually come from that perspective of mindfulness and teaching the person to be more mindful and to be more patient and to be more kind, because the dog's just being a dog. And it's about the way that we are with that animal, not that the dog is, there's something particularly wrong with the dog. And if there is something that's going on with the dog, it's usually because a human in the past has done something crazy to them, and then they're behaving like that because of that. So it all comes back to the humans, doesn't it?
It does. It absolutely does. And, you know, people, funnily enough, halfway through the journey, they'll say, I think you might be training me. I'm like, yeah. So, you know, hence my catchphrase, helping humans understand dogs. So rather than, you know, like, and isn't that the key to everything we do? Understanding how our bodies work, understanding how we, you know, live with nature and the environment.
Yeah.
Everything that we do comes from a point of understanding. So that was what I was trying to do. And at the same time, giving people some easy to follow, common sense, fun techniques that, you know, they can just adapt into like 2 or 3 minutes a day. You know, you don't have to go, oh, I've got to spend some time with the dog and we've got to hang out for an hour, and then you have this awkward interaction and it ends with the dog grabbing the washing or something. You know, it's like 2 or 3 little techniques that you've thought about. You carry them out calmly, number of repetitions, 2 or 3, and then you just leave it there. So it's a short, positive interaction.
Fantastic. That's great. And so after you wrote Nose to Tail, which is the name of the book, you then had people obviously, you then had people obviously come to you and say, can you break it down and make it more easy for me to do on a daily basis? And so so you've now created the Workbook Series, which is, can you explain what the Workbook Series, behind me is one that I prepared earlier.
Absolutely.
Yes. And so what's the Workbook Series help people with?
Okay, so this is a guide to how dogs think, how to help you choose the right dog for you based on what you're like as a person, what you're looking for, understanding a bit of dog behaviour, and some basics about how you can get started in your training.
Fantastic.
And then there was a demand for more.
Right.
So that's where the next book started. So I just started writing another book. And it ended up becoming quite the voluminous, huge doorstop of a number that really, you know, wasn't very practical at all. So I have to give credit to my wonderful publisher. Jason came up with this brilliant idea that we should chop it up, which I was a bit horrified about at the time. And so the thought and the planning for a workbook series came about. And look, being a Kiwi, I just started writing, and unfortunately we've come up with the number 6, which people, anyway, it should have been a series of 7, but it isn't.
That's all right.
It's a series of half a dozen workbooks, and they start with getting started. Obviously, that's, you know, you bring your dog home, how to set up your dog yard, all the stuff that you need, the things that you need to think about. So that's getting ready, getting organised, everything. There's checklists in there. And that's the thing that people really like, is everybody likes a shopping list. They like a checklist.
Yes,
so we go through, break it down, and it's like I'm with you. So we go through everything step by step, and you can tick things off. And then if you have an issue, there's an opportunity to revisit that. So the first one is getting started. The second one is about mind your manners.
Right.
Because everybody wants the polite dog. So that's about how to teach polite greetings between dogs, between friendly human strangers. Don't steal food. Don't go to the toilet in the house. All of those kinds of things. Workbook 3 is really about the nitty-gritty of getting some behaviours in there that you want. And I call them the six-pack.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that was just a little nod to my Australian friends, because, everyone knows what a six-pack is. And so that talks about the 6 behaviours that I believe are the foundation for everyday living. So they are sit, down, stay, come, loosely walking, and everybody's favourite, quiet. So that's quiet, either quiet, don't bark all day, or quiet and calm, which is, what I'd like to talk about today.
Yeah.
And workbook 4 is take a breath. That's this one, which I think people are really going to like that one. Actually, that's my favourite. Workbook 5 is out and about. So how to take the behaviours that you've got at home, the behaviour that you have at home, take the show on the road. So be able to go to the park, go out and about, and your dog behaves the same way, calmly and thoughtfully as it does at home. Yep. And then number 6 is adventures, and that's about, more things that you can do, talking about fitness, swimming, boating, all of the really fun stuff, that we want to do with our dogs.
Fantastic.
That's a bit of a long-winded summary.
That's perfect, because that's what people want to know, that they want to know what is involved in the workbooks. And today we picked the Take a Breath book, which is workbook number 4, because we felt like it was really important, and it made sense that we were talking on the Spiritual Events Directory to spiritual people, or people who are interested in spirituality. And the Take a Breath, you felt and I felt was most relevant in terms of that holistic mindfulness and bringing that spiritual kind of element to your dog training process, which I thought was really great. And that's something that, as you said it was your favourite workbook. So why is it your favourite?
Well, in amongst dog training, we seem to be very focused on things dogs don't do right, and how we can fix them, and how we can get all of that happening really quickly. So, for me, I'm very busy, but I love being outside with nature. And part of what we do as spiritual people is we do a lot of connecting our mind and body, and a lot of calm, thoughtful, thinking, and dogs do the same thing. Right. So, dogs actually do all of that stuff. We just don't always know they do, because they don't use words, but they communicate in body language. So, it's a really great thing to include your dog in your mindfulness exercises, or your meditation, or your yoga. Lots of dogs do lots of yoga poses as a natural, stress reliever. So, a lot of what's included in this workbook is about understanding how that part of the dog works, and that it's a great idea to include them. Because they feed off our energy. So if you're calm and relaxed, you'll often find your dog lying near you, mimicking your behaviour, if you like.
Yeah, that's what I've found with my clients who do meditation. there's a lady who does meditation on a Monday night with me, and she zooms in from her house in Melbourne, and they are, she always has her dog with her, next to her. And then sometimes when we finish the meditation, I see that the dog is lying on her at the end. And my yoga teacher is doing Zoom classes at the moment too, and she has the same thing. So she'll be doing the yoga, and then at the very end, you'll see her dog is like lying across the mat, you know, with her while she's teaching the class. So they're attracted to that energy, you know, when we're in that space, and we can learn from them about finding our peace from their peace.
Absolutely. And even just the way we touch a dog or an animal. So a dog will come up to you and it will offer you the body part that they want you to touch. So they actually get what they want from us, but we're not always aware of it. So, you know, you might want to touch your dog, you know, tickle it under the chin, but it wants you to touch it on the shoulder or scratch it on, you know, on a hip or on its backside. And often that's a way of a dog communicating that, I'm a bit stiff here. Can you give me a bit of a massage? But isn't that what we do too? You know, like we go, hey Pip, I've got a really sore hip. And I'm not just going to say it, I'm going to show you and point to it.
Right.
Dogs can't verbalise the way we can. They just look at you, and then, you know, they look at, or they'll stick their body part, you know, in your hand almost. So it's amazing how much dogs do communicate, you know, non-verbally, but we just miss it sometimes.
Yes, definitely. That's so cool. I love that whole concept of, you know, understanding the body language, because it's something that is, you know, 95% of our communication with humans is, you know, body language. Even if we don't realize it, we subconsciously we get those messages, you know, and that makes sense that, you know, the animals, we just need to tap into that with animals as well. So that's really cool. So you have a few things that you were going to share in terms of the issues that dog owners struggle with most, and you said to me that you would like to share 3 of the things that dog owners struggle with the most.
So the first thing is probably, you know, my dog drags me down the street, doesn't walk next to me.
Right.
It's at the end of the lead, and I've got to have a harness on and hold it with 2 leads. And that's pretty much about understanding lead pressure and the energy around it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have a very simple system. It just takes a little bit of practice, like everything.
Sure.
You know, to understand how lead pressure affects a dog. So loose lead walking is always one of the pain points for people. So we break that down into, we know that the dog wants to get to the place it wants to get in the shortest possible time.
Yep.
But it's your job to teach it or to encourage it to be in the spot where, you know, where you'd like it to be. So ideally next to you, because otherwise if you're following, you're not really doing it together. So I kind of think, why are you there? I mean, if they're moseying along and with the occasional sniff, you know, or a dog that likes to sniff, why don't we use that as a reward system? So there's nothing wrong with walking along and then knowing that the favourite tree or the favourite sniffing spot's coming up and go, okay, go sniff. So we can do all of that and set that up as a reward system as well. But loosely walking is a pain point.
Yeah.
The other one is my dog doesn't come when I call it.
Right.
And that one, it's interesting. A lot of people don't want to call their dog back or have any expectation that their dog will come away from something that's distracting them. And I think that's a little bit around our own feelings about not wanting a dog to not like us. And I've been having lots of conversations with people about that. You know, I don't want to shout, or I don't want to speak too sternly because I don't want my dog to not like me.
Right.
Which, you know, and a lot of people, sometimes if they are able to say that out loud, it gives us a whole lot of insight into what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not necessarily that the dog is doing anything wrong. It's just the relationship. You know, there's something about the relationship, especially when we love our animals so much.
Right. Yeah.
So returning, when I call you. What if I call my dog and it doesn't come, it rejects me?
Right.
So there's some simple tips and that I have in the workbooks about getting a dog to return to you and come, and how we can understand why they don't come.
Yeah.
Sure. Why they get distracted. And the other number 3 on the list, crowd favourite is always barking. Right. And that one is, once again, it's about, instead of focusing on the negative, and, I really don't like the word punishing, but, what can I do to stop my dog doing that? Well, instead of stopping the barking, why don't you teach an alternative behaviour like quiet? Yeah. Which is where our mindfulness thing comes in. Teach your dog to be calm and relaxed and still and enjoy it. Yeah. And it's so important. So teach a quiet command, teach them to relax and be still and enjoy it. You're not going to have a barking problem.
Yep. Yeah, and that's so interesting to me, that whole concept of teaching them to be quiet, because we also as humans need to learn how to be quiet as well. I mean, my whole business is about teaching people meditation and teaching people Reiki and getting them to just quiet and stop for a minute and and take a breath. It's beautiful. Your book, when you showed me that was the workbook, I was like, this is amazing, because it's so what we as humans need to learn as well. And remember, it's not even learning, it's about remembering that we are energetic beings and we can't be on all the time. And dogs do naturally, they stop. All animals do. They stop, they rest. But then they're energetic, and then they stop and they rest. And we as humans have been given this weird false thing about having to be doing all the time. Yes. We don't have a culture where we're encouraged to rest and to stop and to take a breath. So it's wonderful that your methodology is coming from that perspective of teaching not only the human but also the animal, that it's to embrace the taking a breath. Yeah. I think that's great.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So that's awesome. So I guess, did you want to share a little tip on how to overcome those challenges? Did you want to share one tip before we finish up? Is there something that you feel would be most helpful to them, or something that you have, just a little, technique?
Not a problem. I can do that. So I do a lot of library talks. Are always really popular, and I have a couple of themes. And one of the themes is, one of the pain points is help. My dog barks too much. Yeah. And honestly, it's ridiculous how simple it is to teach your dog to be quiet.
Oh, talk to my neighbour.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it does work really well for neighbours as well. So the first thing is, try and get your Sherlock on and understand why your dog's barking. So what's it barking at? Is it barking at something? Is it barking at the perception of something? Does it think there's something? Is it barking at, say, the next door neighbour walking past the fence and all your dog can see is a head? Like, that must be scary. They don't know there's a body on the other side. They just go, the poor neighbour his head is bouncing along the top of the fence. I mean, that's pretty scary if you don't understand the concept of that. Sure. Same thing with, people in a swimming pool. A lot of dogs bark because your body has gone. It's just a head. So, I know. And it must be quite confusing for dogs trying to live in our world. So teach your dog quiet. So when your dog is quiet, just say, dog's name, quiet. It's already doing it. We're capturing that behaviour. And then you can use a marker word that tells them they got it right. I like to use yes, because it's always positive. Yes, and give them a gentle calming pat all the way down their side. I'm passing my imaginary dog. I don't know
it
why.
was too complicated to have an actual dog in the interview, so that's okay.
Oh, you can't. It would need to be very big, wouldn't it? Zoom isn't user friendly with dogs. It's not. It's always tricky. So just, say quiet, yes, and you can give them a food reward. Who doesn't like food? A food reward, a gentle calming pat, and start to reinforce and pair a command like quiet with a positive thing. And then little by little, once you've got that starting to happen, that association, so you're actually telling the dog when they are calm and quiet, you're labeling it just like you would label something miscellaneous in your pantry. You're going, that behaviour that you're currently giving me is quiet. And then once you've got a few repetitions of that and say a week of labelling that, then you can start to use it. The dog will woof a couple of times and you can say, dog's name, insert your dog's name, quiet, and then the reward. And you'll watch them. They'll go, oh, it's me. Oh, quiet. I know that one. That's do nothing.
Right.
Just do nothing.
Yeah.
So it becomes quiet and still. And then you can see how that mindfulness starts to slip in, because then you go, hey, quiet. And they go, oh, stretch, yawn, lie down and just chill out.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes no sense. That's so perfect, because it makes no sense to tell the dog while they're in the midst of barking.
No, they can't hear
quiet,
you.
Because they're connecting the word quiet with barking.
Yes.
And
they're having a rant.
And it doesn't make sense. Yeah. No, that's great. And it's really interesting because it connects with something that I was listening to the other day with, I was listening to a podcast about energy. And if you're on, if you're moving, if your momentum is in a particular direction, your thought process is in a particular direction, you can't stop it necessarily. It's like trying to stop a bus rolling down a hill. You can't stop the momentum when it's already almost at the bottom of the hill, so the dog's barking and it's going crazy, or your thought process is going nuts. You can't stop it at that point because you've already got the momentum going. But if you practice being quiet and you practice being calm and you practice being peaceful, or whatever the intention is that you're wanting to have, then you will be more likely to stay in that space than if you try and implement it while you're in the midst of a crisis.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. And
exactly.
That's fantastic. I love it. That's a great tip.
It's awesome. It's awesome. It's so easy. Honestly, people are just blown away. They'll bring, they'll have a barking dog and you just show them those steps. It's like, wow. And get in touch with them a week later, the difference is phenomenal. Just a matter of, understanding why a dog's doing something and then, working with it.
Yep, absolutely. I love it. So thank you for that. That's so great. That's a really good tip. I'm sure people will be able to use that. But if they forget and they want to get in touch with you, where's the best place for them to get in touch with you and to maybe get a hold of the books as well?
So I do actually have that barking tip as a video. So there's a 2-part video training series, a little bit of a, sneaky look at me doing a barking consult with a client and talking about, why the dog's barking and what we're going to do to fix it. And then, we're going to be doing part 2 and showing you nothing. It's a bit hard to do part 2 on a barking video when you go, here's what we prepared earlier, there's nothing happening. I haven't worked out how you can actually do that yet, but how do you do that anyway? So for more information, tips, and to get a copy of the books, www.animaltalent, or one word, .com.au.
Perfect. And you have a Facebook page as well, which is Animal Talent HQ, as in headquarters.
Yes, and we have on there's lots of tips, videos, all sorts of little bits and pieces. We do the occasional Facebook Live and share some stories and bits and bobs. So there's always something on there that, people find useful. Oh, there's some recipes, DIY dog treats, all that kind of stuff.
Great.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Louise. I think that was really helpful, and I love your mindfulness and holistic approach to the dog training. I think that's really going to resonate with a lot of people in this community. And thank you again for your time. We really appreciate it. And the laughs, it was good.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Lovely. We'll see you very soon. And thanks, everyone. Have a look at Louise's website, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.
See ya.